Hey guys, it's Chelsa Messenger with Picks and Parlays. We're breaking down some NFL action, the Eagles and the Cardinals. Christmas is right around the corner, and we've got a promo code. The code is Noel for 20% off the entire site at picksandparlays.net. The Cardinals are favored -6.5. The total is 49.5. The Eagles are 4-8-1 on the year. 5-8 against the number. Arizona 7-6, 6-7 against the spread. The Eagles coming off a huge upset win over a really solid Saints team. And I'm going to tell you, this is one of the first games that I locked in earlier in the week because I thought the number was going to move, but it hasn't. So that scares me a little bit when I like the Eagles in this one, just because Jalen Hurts changed that offense so much and he did it against a Saints defense. It's supposed to be really good, but we've got a true expert here to break it down for us. Lee from ASA. Lee, what's your take on Eagles and Cardinals?
Well, interesting point. Both teams are still alive in the playoffs. It's slim, but both teams can potentially get in. They've got similar defensive stats. Eagles are 14th in yards allowed per game. They're 19th in points per game allowed at 25.2. Cardinals are 11th in yards per game allowed, 13th in points per game allowed. So defensively, very similar. The big difference is offense. Arizona right now is 4th in the NFL in total yards per game. They're up there in rushing. I believe they're 4th in rushing yards per game. They're 10th in scoring. Now, the Eagles' offensive numbers can be attributed to Carson Wentz and poor play early on. With Wentz under center, the Eagles had scored 17 points or less in 4 straight. And then, as you mentioned last week, Philly put up 24 against the Saints defense, which is, one of the 1 or 2 best defenses in the NFL. They outgained the Saints by 55 yards in that game. So I think the quarterback change is a dramatic issue for the Eagles. They clearly played much better last week. In fact, they rushed for 246 yards against the Saints, who had allowed 76 yards per game on the season. So just by making that quarterback change, there was a drastic difference for the Eagles. I also like the number in this game. Philly was just a 7.5-point home dog to the Saints, who again, one of the best teams in the NFL. Earlier this year, they were +8 at Green Bay, +6.5 versus Seattle. So I'm not sure Arizona should be laying 6.5 in this situation. The Cards had lost 3 straight prior to last week's win. They caught the Giants in a favorable scheduling situation as they were coming off a win against the Seahawks. So I expect them to kind of trend back down here a little bit. They were favored by 6 earlier this year at home against Miami, and they lost that game 31-34. So I really feel the points are a premium here, and that's the way to go.
Right, and it seems like Kyler Murray, he's just been a lot worse as of late, and some of that might be due to the fact that he's been nursing some shoulder injuries, I believe, but 7 touchdowns to 5 interceptions over his last 5 games. And then I just like the way this Eagles team is trending. I never thought I would want to wager actual American dollars on the Eagles, but it seems like they're getting healthier. And as you mentioned, when you have a better quarterback, it helps the run game as well because especially because Jalen Hurts is such a threat to run. He had over 100 yards rushing against that Saints defense. And also Miles Sanders did a lot better, 115 yards rushing. So I think it's like a ripple effect. When your quarterback is a lot more competent, it helps the offense as a whole, needless to say. And it's just, especially for a team that has a history of doing things just to cover. If you remember that primetime game where they went for 2 and covered the number, Carson Wentz had that Hail Mary, and then they went for 2, and somehow they covered in that game. So that's got to give bettors a little bit more confidence as well. Any other factors you're looking at in this one that maybe aren't quite as far-fetched as that one?
Well, touching on the rushing angle, even though their offense has been so bad this year, the Eagles are 9th in rushing at 126 yards per game. They do rush it for 5.2 yards per carry, which is really, really good. Cardinals' margin of victory this year, plus 4.2 points per game. So that's not going to cover 6.5. Even though the Eagles are 4-8-1, their net differential is 3.9 points per game. So again, that's going to get a cover for the Eagles. Arizona is just not in a role where they're familiar, as a favorite. They're 4-5 straight up as a favorite the last 2 years, and they've won those games by just 2.1 points per game. So, I think everything kind of adds up. And if the Eagles play like they did last week, they can win this game.
That's my only reservation is, am I overreacting to last week's game? Just because it's still only one game. And, Jalen Hurts can go the other direction in a hurry. I'm not saying this Cardinals defense is especially tough, but it is only one game. Are any reservations about that and just kind of how it may be a flash in the pan?
Not really, because if again you look at the Cards, they have lost 3 of their last 4 games, so I don't think they're playing especially well either. So no, I think the way to go is to roll the dice with Philly and hope Hurts plays well again, and if he does, he doesn't even have to be spectacular. He just has to be
Right.
good, and they'll cover.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing when you need a team to cover, you need them to be able to put up points. And with Jalen Hurts, they've been a lot better at putting up points. But that's going to do it for NFL Talk here on Picks and Parlays. Great stuff from Lee. Lee, thanks for joining us.